Hello there, good evening. I'm Oteli Edwards, and here are your top stories on News 5.
We will have a terrific relationship, I have no doubt.
Signed, sealed, and to be delivered. A pledge from the North Korean leader to completely denuclearize in this historic agreement. Nations around the world welcome the peace drive, while analysts say the signed agreement was only symbolic and nothing tangible.
But this one will be really good starting point.
Meantime, Koreans we spoke to here are hopeful to usher in a new era. And coming up later in the program, if getting tickets to watch the World Cup in Russia isn't tough enough, wait till you try to get around and find affordable accommodation. Your inside scoop on the way. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made history today with their unprecedented summit and the signing of an agreement at the end of it. Now, the document committed them to setting up new relations for peace and prosperity and reaffirming their intent to work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
It was a meeting the world had been waiting for. June 12th, a moment in history. Months of preparation leading up to this very moment, the first ever meeting between a sitting U.S. president and a North Korean leader. Ahead of the summit, Mr. Trump had said the first minute of meeting Mr. Kim would be crucial. He said he would know in that time if Mr. Kim was serious about the meeting and if it would be a success. But he also threatened to walk out if talks were not fruitful. But if this exchange was anything to go by, both leaders had a positive outlook.
I feel really great. We're going to have a great discussion, and I think tremendous success. It'll be tremendously successful. And it's my honor, and we will have a terrific relationship, I have no doubt.
여기까지 오는 길이 그리 쉬운 길은 아니에요.
Well, it was not easy to get here.
우리한테는 우리 발목을 잡는 그 과거가 있고 또 그릇된 풍경과 관행들이 우리 때로는 우리 눈과 귀를 가리우기도 했는데 우린 모든 것을 이겨내고 이 자리까지 왔습니다.
Mr. Trump and Mr. Kim began with a one-on-one meeting with only translators present. That private exchange lasted some 45 minutes. They were then joined by their advisors for further talks.
Successful. And I look forward to working on it with you.
Very nice. Getting a good picture of everybody, so we look nice and handsome and thin.
Beautiful. 잘생기게 아름답게 찍어달라고.
After a working lunch that lasted more than an hour, both leaders took a leisurely stroll around the lush hotel grounds.
Doing great. We had a really fantastic meeting. A lot of progress. Really very positive. I think better than anybody could have expected. Top of the line. Really good. We're going right now for a signing.
Ahead of the signing, Mr. Trump gave Mr. Kim, who reportedly owns up to 100 cars, a closer look at his fortified limo, the Beast. After that, both leaders signed an agreement where Mr. Trump promised security guarantees to North Korea, while Mr. Kim reaffirmed his commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
And we're very proud of what took place today. I think our whole relationship with North Korea and the Korean Peninsula is it's going to be a very much different situation than it has in the past. We both want to do something. We both are going to do something. And we have developed a very special bond.
역사적인 이 만남에서 지난 과거를 덮고 새로운 출발을 알리는 그 역사적인 문건에 서명을 하게 됩니다.
So, will the U.S. president invite Mr. Kim to the White House?
Absolutely, I will.
Mr. Kim, would you like to come to Washington?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And with the summit done, both leaders headed off on their separate ways. Mr. Kim back to Pyongyang and Mr. Trump on to Guam. It's not certain yet what tangible action will come out of this meeting. But history will mark this date as an unprecedented step forward for US-North Korean relations.
Well, meantime, countries over the world have reacted to the historic meeting and agreement between the U.S. and North Korea. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has hailed the success of today's summit and vowed to work towards a permanent peace in the Korean peninsula. He also pledged to write new history with North Korea. Mr. Moon and his aides watched the summit over television in the presidential Blue House.
우리에게 완전한 비핵화와 평화, 남북미 간의 새로운 시대를 열어주는 성공적인 회담이 되기를 국민들과 함께 간절히 바랍니다.
China, a key ally of Pyongyang, also hailed the summit. Beijing praised both leaders for creating a new history.
我们希望两国最高领导人能够排除干扰，建立互信，克服困难，就推进并实现半岛的无核化，以及推进并建立半岛的和平机制，能够达成基本的共识，能够为此迈出重要的步伐。当然，我们也愿意看到有关各方都为此做出积极的努力。中国，我们会继续发挥我们的建设性的作用。
Now, Russia also welcomed Mr. Trump and Mr. Kim's pledge to denuclearize, saying it's willing to assist in that. Moscow also expressed hope that the warming ties with Pyongyang would unblock normal economic cooperation with the country. North Korea is under a raft of international sanctions for carrying out numerous missile and nuclear tests. Mr. Trump said in today's conference that the sanctions would remain for now. But the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN, was less enthused about the outcome. The group calls the summit the photo op of a lifetime for Mr. Trump. Analysts also expressed skepticism over the summit's outcome, with many saying it had yielded only symbolic results and nothing tangible. The signed agreement is heavy on commitments, but it's light on specifics. The document does not provide a time frame for denuclearization to take place. There is also no mention of how nuclear disarmament will happen. But the United Nations has indicated it's prepared to play a supportive role in the denuclearization process.
We are not the protagonists. The protagonists are the parties. But we are here to support. Whatever the UN agencies and mechanisms or related to the UN can do will be at the disposal of the parties. But as I said, our objective is not to play a role. Our objective is the success of these negotiations, and we are here to support whatever will be required by them.
Prime Minister Lee Hsien-loong has congratulated both U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on what he called a successful conclusion of a historic meeting. In letters to both leaders, Mr. Lee said the joint statement signed between them is a dramatic step forward and is a crucial first move in the long journey towards lasting peace and stability on a denuclearized Korean peninsula. This, Mr. Lee said, will benefit not only the region but also the rest of the world. Mr. Lee said Singapore is honored to have hosted this important summit. He said Singapore joins the international community in celebrating this outcome and in wishing both countries success in implementing the agreement. Mr. Lee said he looks forward to welcoming Mr. Trump again in November on his state visit to Singapore. As for Mr. Kim, he hopes the North Korean leader enjoyed his stay in Singapore, including the walk at Marina Bay, and looks forward to meeting him again in the near future. Now, in a Facebook post, Mr. Lee also thanked Singapore's servicemen, public officers and their teams for pulling off the summit, commending them for an outstanding job done. He also thanked Singaporeans for showing the world what the country can do. Well, here in Singapore, the South Korean community pulled out all the stops to mark the U.S.-North Korean summit, and that includes kimbap, a specially designed shirt, and a party. Take a look.
This is the moment some 40 people at the Korean Association in Tanjong Pagar witnessed history taking place on the TV screen. After nearly 70 years of waiting, hope arrived with a single handshake.
The moment the leaders shook hands, the room erupted in cheers and hugs. Now, many of them present here had taken leave from work, and some even flew all the way from Japan and Australia. And for many of them that I spoke to, this marked a pivotal moment towards reunification. But some do acknowledge that this is work in progress.
It was amazing. We never expected this kind of event, but now look at the North Korea and then the United States, the president, they shake hands, and it's really glad to see that kind of the event. It'll take some time to solve all the issues, but this one will be really good starting point.
Today, which is the North and the U.S. summit, is a very important moment of our history. As normally they say, it's been 7 years divided by North and South. So hopefully this is the momentum to be united.
That atmosphere is cheerful. I mean, even though I've been living in Australia for 40 years now, but it was a tearful moment. I think it's a starting point. I cannot see everything comes at once. So when they start to open their hearts, and eventually it will come across.
I hope that the summit produce a promising outcome. Personally, I hope that Kim Jong-un agrees to the nuclearization. Yes.
Students at the Singapore Korean International School also witnessed the scenes unfold on TV. But the celebrations were nowhere near as ecstatic as those at the Korean Association, where some of those present were personally affected by the Korean War. The energy was infectious as they donned specially designed shirts and gamely cheered whenever replays of the handshake appeared on screen. Reunification and peace on the Korean peninsula may not be a pipe dream after all.